Oh, Ali,
Oh,
where
yes.
are you?
I'm
It
outside,
looks
man,
like
in an outer space, man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, and welcome to Chataway in Ummati Station. How is everybody doing? So,
Good,
Hatim,
alhamdulillah. It's nice. It's always nice to see you.
man, I was
What?
I was swimming around the stars, but I see some stars behind you. What is this, man?
Yes, I have my special background today to remind me of the galaxies. Do you
You
like it?
mean galaxy? Is that the thing that we eat? Chocolate? No, no.
No. Different galaxy. You'll find out today. By the way, this is not green screen. Huh? This is an actual poster of the galaxy.
Really?
Yeah,
Ooh. You can touch the stars? Can you try?
I can touch the stars. Yes, I can
Man,
touch the stars. Which
can you
one?
count?
Yeah,
Can you
here,
count?
somewhere here. Yeah.
Can you count them?
We'll count them later. But today
Okay.
we have a special guest who will tell us more about the galaxies and the stars. We have our guest, Mr. ABDULWAHAB bin Sulaiman bin Muhammad Al Busaidi. Assalamu alaikum, Mr. ABDULWAHAB.
Salam alaikum.
وعليكم السلام مشايخ اهلا شيخ حاتم اهلا شيخ علي. It's been really nice to be with you guys.
Same here, man.
How are
Same
you
here.
today?
Wallah, I'm fine, and I wish I had a background like yours, but inshallah in the next episode I'll put something similar to yours.
I thought you were
Insha-
inside the rocket now. I thought you were inside the rocket, and this is like the control panel.
No,
well,
Sheikh Hatem is in a rocket.
for those who don't know Mr. Mr. AbdulWahab is a geologist. He has 26 years experience in the oil and gas industry. He's retired at the moment, and he is also an ex-board member of Oman Astronomical Society, and he's also a member of the Islamic Information Center at the Grand Mosque, and he's also a member of the Society of Petroleum Engineers and the Geological Society of Oman. And mashallah, Mr. Abdulwahab has a lot of achievements and a lot of hobbies, and like scuba diving and
MashaAllah.
astronomy as well. And I've known him for many years, but I never knew that he was into astronomy only a few years back when I traveled with him to the UK and he presented something about the stars and the galaxy. And I was really, really impressed. And I thought today is a good day to have Mr. Abdul Wahab to tell us more about the heavens, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah. And wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah from Hassan al-Rasbi. And also we have Hafiz al-Rawahi. So we have, mashallah, many viewers watching us right now.
I'm in
Yes.
trouble. I have to be careful if
So-
Sheikh Hafiz is online. Oh, I really have to be careful with what I say.
So, Mr. Abdul Wahab, as you know, that not so many people, take the time to look up and look at the stars
Yeah.
and wonder about them, and even know
Yeah.
about our galaxy and the planets and the stars and the sun and the moon. So I think it would be very educational for all of us to understand more about the universe that we live in. So to start off, Mr. Abdul Wahab, how big is our universe?
Oh, why do you start with the big and difficult questions? To be honest with you, Sheikh Hatem, there is no answer, if you believe it or not, for this question.
Oh.
But I'll try to give us, some explanation. How big is the universe is what baffles astronomers and scientists, because the further they look, the bigger it is. The more galaxies they discover, they find even more beyond. So at the end, they concluded, they said, look, we will agree on something what we call as the observable universe, what we can see with our very powerful telescopes. So our powerful telescopes can show us at least 400 billion galaxies. Most of them a lot bigger than ours. So each galaxy has got between 200 to a trillion stars. So our own Milky Way galaxy has around 400 billion stars. So now you do the math and try to imagine how big they are. And maybe later on we'll talk about big
MashaAllah.
stars and big things. So it's quite big. It's an infinite.
MashaAllah.
Now,
MashaAllah.
now, let me bring you back to profession
Mm,
before getting deeper into the
mm,
galaxy. You
mm.
are a geologist by profession.
Yes,
What got you
yes.
into astronomy? When did you
Wallah, Sheikh
start? Why you
Hatem,
got interested?
I think Sheikh Hatem, ever since I was a child, I was probably going to class one, if you will. I will go to school and look at the sun, where it rises from. So what I noticed when I was young is that it rises from the east, but it moves slightly to the south. So like every 2 3 months, I will put even a tree as a landmark for me. So I will wonder why is it changing? So I will also look at the moon.
Subhanallah.
And at night, whenever there are stars, so I've had this admiration of the universe and the sky from very young age. But actually, the time I started to use telescope was probably maybe 20 years ago. And the first thing I saw was Saturn
MashaAllah.
with its rings. So I said, this is it. I will continue with this.
MashaAllah.
You can call it a hobby or even a passion.
Subhanallah.
So it's
I
not
had
a
this dream before.
it's not a retirement hobby.
No. I started very young.
Hatem, I just wanted to add up to this because I had this dream before, to
Yes.
learn about astronomy and look at the stars, and even I was thinking of buying a telescope, but that was only a dream, and it never actually came. I don't know what stopped me, even though it's been there since, I don't know, 20 years back since I started thinking about them, but I haven't even studied about it or anything. And in fact, I was actually looking for someone to be there, so that I can speak with and maybe learn from. And now I think, ABDULWAHAB, now that I knew you, I'm going to be nagging a lot and calling you a lot, and maybe
Inshallah.
asking you to take me somewhere, with a telescope and discover the whole planet.
It will be my pleasure, Ali. It will really be my pleasure.
So ABDULWAHAB, now the title of this show is Galaxy.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
do we mean by the galaxy itself? What is it?
Okay. Galaxy is, for example, right now we are, I assume, all of us somewhere in Muscat. So that is our address. We are in Oman. And then if you go further up, let's assume you are on a plane or a rocket, you're flying very fast. You will start seeing Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and so on. So you say, oh, that is now the Gulf. And you go further, you will see Pakistan, Iran, China, and before you know it, you saw Africa. And then before you know it, the Earth is just a small thing. And it means that you are now probably reaching the moon. And you pass the moon, you go to Jupiter, you go to Saturn, you go to Neptune. So you cross all those planets. And then you go out of our solar system, and now you go to the arm of the Milky Way. So our larger address will be Oman, Earth, solar system, and galaxy, which has about, as I said earlier, around 400 billion stars. It's huge. Its length is 20,000 light years. So that is your bigger address, bigger than the planet Earth. So yeah, that's your address.
It's amazing, subhanallah.
It's gonna be very difficult to remember my address. if it's,
no, you can write it down. So in case you make 20, a talabat,
20 million light years.
It's good. Yeah.
But you explaining about the galaxy shows how little we are compared to the universe, and how insignificant we are compared to this huge universe. And this is to ponder upon. We as believers, we need to always look to the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not have that ego that I'm the best creation, and I'm the most powerful, and I know everything. While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا.
إلا قليلا. نعم.
And today with the science of astronomy and so on, there are so
Mm,
many questions that still are unanswered.
mm.
A
Yes.
lot of information
Mm,
that is still not very clear. It is in the
mm.
secret with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
and the most important question that people normally ask is, how was the universe formed? How
Mm.
did it come into
Mm.
existence?
Yes. Yes. Okay, the answer to that, if we look at science and astronomy, is that it all started in a fraction of a second. Allah Ta'ala said to it, be, and it was. So basically, there was a very, very small, hot, dense point. Yeah. And then suddenly, there was an expansion. And they call this the Big Bang. So in fraction of a second, something exploded or started expanding, and it started making stars, started making planets, started making galaxies. So this happened 13.7 billion years ago. So if we go back in time, it will all collapse and turn into a smaller than an atom, smaller than a neutron. So it started with a big bang. This is what we theorize, and it's not really something else has not come up to either reject this theory. So the Big Bang is how the universe started, بأمر من الله تعالى.
Subhanallah. So,
Subhanallah wa ni'ma billah.
I think let us relate now astronomy and the Arab world.
Yes.
When do you think that astronomy actually developed and got advanced here in the Arab world?
Very good question, Ali. Before Islam, the Arab world, we lived in a period known as Al-Jahiliyyah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute arrogance and ignorance. People were illiterate. They will kill their daughters for fear of whatever they have reasons. They will worship idols. But when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was sent with this Quran, which has more than 1,000 clear signs talking about the astronomy and the universe and nature in general. So what happened is that during the Abbasid period, there was a ruler called Ma'mun al-Rashid. And maybe Sheikh Hafiz al-Rawahi will tell me, no, that's not exactly true, but he will later on probably, by the way, he's a specialist in this part. I'm more or less into
Oh.
the
Yes.
astronomy rather than the history. But anyway, so what happened is that in the House of Wisdom, a lot of scholars will gather and study medicine, biology,
Mm-hmm.
chemistry, physics, and astronomy. And the famous astronomers were people like Al-Khawarizmi. We might know him for mathematics, but he is also an astronomer. So he came up with a gadget, an equipment called a quadrant. So a sign quadrant will tell you exactly when the stars will rise, which direction they are moving, and their location. Ibrahim al-Fazari, another Arab, he came up with an invention called Astrolab. So this is also a device that equates to a handheld model of the universe. So it's just like your GPS of today. So by just giving coordinates, it will tell you where you are. And also there are people like Al-Battani or Abu Rayyan al-Biruni who invented the star chart. So the list goes on and on and on. So basically, after the Quran and after the Prophet ﷺ, the Islamic world exploded with knowledge in all fields and also in astronomy.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Mr. Abdul Wahab, I always hear this, especially in the movies. They talk about the North
Hmm.
Star. What is this
Yes.
North Star, and how different is
Yeah.
it from other stars? And normally, people they point at the North Star, they could recognize
Hmm.
it. But us as
Yes.
normal, people who don't have knowledge of astronomy, how
Yes.
can we
Yeah.
identify the North Star?
Yeah. I'll give very quick story of I think it was, it's related here within the Omani community or society, that there were two women who saw a child, and each said, this is my child. So the judge says, give them an assignment. He says, look, go at night and look at all the stars. There is one star that doesn't move, and I want you to tell me exactly what star that is. So the one who gave birth was just looking everywhere for 12 hours. The one that did not give birth, she just slept after a couple of hours. So in the morning, the judge says, come and tell me which star was not moving. The lady said there is one star on the north, it was just not moving at all, while everything else was moving. So he said, you must be the mother because you are very patient and observant. So the north star doesn't move, it stays where it is throughout the night, throughout the
MashaAllah.
year for 12 months. And it is, if you're in Al Hel beach, if you go for example to Al Hel or the Moj area, look in the sea and look up with an angle, I would say maybe 20-30 degrees, it depends where you are exactly, but you will see a star. And the way we find out is we look at the Big Dipper or the plow. By the way, its scientific name is Polaris, and of course in Arabic we call it Najm al-Shamali. So it is pointed by the two stars of the Big Dipper or the plow or Dubb al-Kabir. So it will point to you that this is the North Star. So next time we go out, inshallah, I can demonstrate how it works. But it's very easy to find. If you have the North Star, the other three directions are easy to find because your back will be south, your right will be east, the left will be west. So you won't get lost.
So my question is, if you are anywhere in the world, can you see the North Star?
Absolutely, regardless, even if you're on the North Pole, you will see it. The north, you go towards the northern hemisphere, it will rise higher and higher. But that's the only star that doesn't move. Everything else moves from east to west. So whether it is the Orion Nebula, whether it's Cassiopeia, whether it's any other, but the Pegasus, the Leo, they all move into the west. Even the moon, even the sun, even the planets. But the North Star says, I'm here to stay.
And I've never
I'm
heard
curious,
about this before.
why doesn't why doesn't it move?
It doesn't move because it is exactly at the North Pole. Now look, if you have a basketball, but probably it's the size of the house, yeah, and you rotate that basketball, you make a rotation of it, and you are standing on top of the basketball, yeah, but somebody on your left is pointing a torch on your left. Let's say that's the north. He's holding the northern star. The ball is huge. So you will always see him, but whatever is above you, you won't see because you are rotating. But the guy on the left, since he's on the north, you will always see him. That's probably an easy way of saying it. But there are also other experiments you can do at home to see why the North Star doesn't move.
So you give some names, Leo and all that. Do we call them constellations or what do we call that?
Indeed, we call them constellations.
And how many are there? If you can.
Well, look, we are now scientific. All we talk about is science, numbers, actual stars, actual figures, actual objects. So there are other groups who talk about astrology. We have nothing to do with that. That's not science, that's rather something else. But astronomy is looking at, now, even using telescope to zoom in and study those stars. So if you're talking to astronomer, he will tell you there are 88 constellations. Yeah. So, but if you talk, the ones you see in the newspapers who talk about the future, and the future only is known to Allah, they might have 12 or 13. So the one that you are showing right now is the Orion constellation. So Orion in Oman they call it Al-Mayazin, Al-Mayazin, or even they call some might call him a Sayyad or the hunter. So basically what you see on your right is his shield. So the belt are the three stars. And believe it or not, Sheikh Hatim Ali, if you go up right now in your rooftop, you will see this constellation.
Yeah.
Even in Muscat, it's visible.
Mainly before Fajr, you can actually see very visible. Is that the one?
Yeah. No. That is Venus. Before Fajr, to the east, that's Venus.
I'm talking about the three stars.
No, the three stars are visible right now. They're already rising and going up. So these three stars, they're the belt of Orion. In Sharqiya, they call it Khanjar Luqman, or the belt. So right below it, there is the Orion Nebula. And of course, there is Betelgeuse down, and the one that you see on top is Rigel. It's very famous constellation. Everybody in the desert, whether it's a Bedouin or whether it is people who are sitting, the first constellation they see is this one, the Orion. Al-Mayazin, Al-Sayyad, Al-Jabbar. It has so many names.
Subhanallah.
Shabab.
Go ahead, Hatim.
Can Can I go for 5 minutes to the roof and watch
Yeah,
the stars, and
yeah,
you continue with the
yeah. Take a
discussion?
picture.
Are you sure
No,
you want to go up
no,
on the roof?
no,
Uh,
now I'm excited. You're talking about all these stars, and we
yeah,
are stuck in
you
this
can
room.
see them,
Oh,
but
I
we
want to
don't
go
look.
and see
We
We
the
look
should we
only
stars.
should
at
we
our
should have
phones.
our next we should have our next show up, man, up on the roof, not in the
Yeah,
room.
yeah, yeah. Practical session.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
You just get your telescopes
mashallah.
ready, and then inshallah we will do it. So the queen, is it because it looks like
Yes.
the crown, or?
No, no, actually, not. That is not the crown. That is her throne, her chair. So that is the
Ah.
queen, and she's called Cassiopeia. Yeah. So, but in Arabic they call it that al kursi. But they have said that this is a queen who is sitting on a big throne, but it indeed looks like a crown. And there are at least six known stars there that you can see. And that is
Mm.
also will help you point towards the northern star, which Sheikh Hatim asked earlier. So there are also, of course, stories and parables about the queen that her son was killed and he ran to the opposite side. Yeah, but these are stories when you go at night. But scientifically, this is Cassiopeia, and it is in the northern sky, and it points to the northern star as well.
So people in the past, when they didn't have any kind of maps or compasses, did they
Yeah.
use the constellations for the guidance, or is it something else?
No, no, it's the constellation. Whether you are in the sea, as a seaman, as a sailor, as a ship, these are your road maps because there are no other maps available during nighttime. So these constellations, they act like a map. Even if you go right now to Sharqiya and you take any any nomad, or you can say those who live in the desert, and you tell me what you see there, they know them all because they use them as a map, as a road map. Yeah, the one you're showing also is هذا الجناح الأعظم الأكبر. So this is the Pegasus as well. So it is also visible during winter. So this, of course, you need to be in the desert. You won't be able to see it in Muscat.
Oh,
But
so
what
you're telling
Hatem can
me?
see on his rooftop, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, what Hatem can see right now, if he goes to the rooftop, is the Orion, and he might the Cassiopeia in a few hours' time, and also he will be able to see what else? Another 3 or 4 constellations you'll be able to see. Minimum,
Inshallah.
at least 3 of them, and you'll see the Big Dipper, obviously, towards Al Fajr.
So, but you just mentioned that it depends. Does it depend on the time of the year? So if it's winter, you see it. In the summer, you don't see it, or has nothing to do with that?
Absolutely. So what you see now in July is totally different. So we call
Oh.
this the winter constellations, and during summer you start getting, the winter constellations are not visible during summer, simply because you are going to other side of the solar system. So you're shifting position, so you'll not see them.
I have a question from Hassan Rasbi. He's asking, how can we see the stars of the Milky Way galaxy? Where are the best places to see the stars?
I think my favorite place is Masira, Rimal Wahiba, Jabal Samhan, and Jabal Shams. Jabal Akhdar these days is just too many lights. But if you are looking to take photographs of the Milky Way, and these days, mashallah, there are so many young boys and girls who go out at night, put their camera, work on the cameras with ISO, with the shuttering speeds and so on, and they take beautiful pictures of the Milky Way. So my favorite is either Masira, Rimal Wahiba, Jabal Shams. This is what I can think of right now. But here in Muscat, you can do that as well. And you can just drive to Halban in a little bit of dark area. You will be able to see beautiful stars.
And is
even
there a
the Milky Way.
specific type of telescope that you can advise?
Well, I mean, there are, like in everything, there are marks or brands. I mean, like in cars, people will think of Toyota, Mercedes. There's some reliable things. So I will go for Celestron. I will go for Mead, because these have established in the market. They have more than 100 years of experience. So whenever you want to buy a telescope, I can think of these two. Celestron. I own myself Celestron, so I recommend Celestron, Mead. These are great. But of course, you need to decide on the size. If you are just an amateur and you're just starting, I wouldn't go and buy, 2,000-3,000 telescope. I would go something like maybe 300-400 real with a GPS, with a self mount, and then also it has an auto detector. So just by putting on the remote Neptune, it will just move to Neptune automatically.
But are you going to see it the way it is, or does it look like lights? Do you actually see it?
No, it depends. No, you see it the way. No, by your naked eye, you see just a speck of a light. But if you have a telescope, for example, if you put it on Jupiter, you will see the huge red spot. You will see the belt that goes, right in the middle, and then you will see the northern pole. So you will see features. And one of the things to really enjoy looking at, which I never get tired of, is the moon. So if I look at the moon with a telescope, I see the craters, I see the valleys, I see the mountain. It's so beautiful.
MashaAllah.
Sheikh AbdulWahab, I have a burning question. When we were in kindergarten and school and we grew up, if you mention star, you have the shape with the 5 heads.
Yes.
The shape of the star. But in reality, that's not how the star looks like. Some of the stars they even circle.
Regarding your question, this shape, I think is because it blinks. But maybe we can go a little bit technical and talk a little bit about how a star is formed. So a star is formed literally by collision of 2 hydrogen atoms. So they collide and create this massive energy known as nuclear fusion, which creates a new element that is helium. So the collision is so big and so massive that it's so hot in the middle of a star, the temperatures can rise up to 20 to 30 million degrees Celsius. It's hot, so stars are hot, they're big. Yeah, our own sun, at the center of our sun is 20 million degrees Celsius. And if you think that is hot, there are stars that are so hot that they will burn our own sun. In fact, if you allow me, I will quickly mention one of the phenomena of this universe, and that is mind-boggling. This is something called as GRB. It's called gamma ray burst. So what happens is that this burst, in a few seconds, it will give out an energy which will take our sun 6 billion years to produce the same amount of energy. And our sun produces enough energy in 1 second to make our planet into nothing, completely destroyed. So there are loud things, big things, hot things, fast things out there.
Now the stars, Sheikh AbdulWahab, do they get the light from the sun, or they have their own projected light?
Good question. So the planets don't have their own sun. You remember we talked about the planets. It starts from Mercury, it goes to Venus, Earth, and so on, all the way to, let's say, Pluto, or even Neptune, if you want to count 8. So those, they get reflected light, including our moon. But stars, I said, those stars, there is a big factory right there making so much energy, because what you have is an ongoing fusion of 2 atoms colliding with each other. And by the way, at one point, people like Albert Einstein and a number of scientists, they studied the star and noticed that if you collide 2 atoms of hydrogen, you get a big energy. Hence, they came up with the atomic bomb. So they stole the technology from and one of the regrets that Einstein had was that he came up with this theory of colliding atoms, and which results in in the death and destruction. But at the same time, you have people studying the stars and the galaxies, and then they come back and say, oh, we can make an MRI out of this, we can make a CT scan. So this equipment and these gadgets, we learned from the galaxy. We learned how the galaxy works, and we use it in the medical and for the benefit of mankind.
Okay, there's a question by Hassan again. He's asking, how far can we see by an amateur telescope? Can we see anything beyond Saturn?
Good question. If you are an amateur telescope astronomer and you bought yourself, let's say, a telescope for, let's say, 500-600 real, it is 4.5 inch or even 6 inch, and you went to a very dark area and there is no moon, make sure it's moonless, yeah? And then like tonight is a good night to watch the moon. So you go and point it, so you'll see all the planets easily if they're available, and then you can see the stars that we talked about, the Orion, the Big Dipper. You can look at the binary stars, single stars, and then to get it more exciting, you'll start looking at the nebula, like the Orion Nebula. By the way, it's so beautiful to look at. It's really beautiful. And then you go and look at our neighboring galaxies. So if you are an amateur, you can see at least our own Milky Way galaxy, plus 1 or 2 galaxies outside our galaxy. And if you are really advanced, you go out and look at for the Whirlpool galaxy and so on. So it's for you there to discover, waiting for you.
Ayman Asharaf is asking, what is the sun's proper name? Is there
The
another
sun.
name for the sun?
Well, I mean, you can call it, solar, hence the name solar system. But the sun is known as the sun, and scientifically, people will refer it as the solar, or our solar system, because of the its huge role in, it's the gravitational force that puts all our planets together. But the name is sun. And as I said, scientifically, you might call it the solar.
So we talked about the stars, and people say you cannot count the stars. Really?
No. There is a show by an astronaut called Carl Sagan, and I agree with him. He said the number of stars out there are more than all the sand grains that you see on the beaches, that you see in the desert. So you put them into one huge container, which you cannot find here on Earth, and you start counting. There are more stars out there than the sand grains here on planet Earth. You cannot count them. Never, ever, ever, ever. Too many.
I have a burning question, Mr. AbdulWahab.
Why does your
Sometimes
questions
when
always burn, man? Why? You're trying
because
you're trying to challenge
because
the
he
sun?
said because he says the stars are formed by collusion, and they form a heat and energy. So I have a burning question.
Yeah, it's burning, man.
I'm trying to understand how scientists come with the conclusion of the age of the star, the distance of the star, like they say 20 million light years. How do they measure? How do they know? How they say that this star was formed 20 billion years ago?
Good question.
How do they find that?
Yes,
it's a burning question. It's
a burning question.
It's so difficult. Okay, I can think of maybe 2-3 ways of answering them. The first is you want to know the distance. Well, to measure the distance, you can do it yourself, or you can use very sophisticated equipment. But you want to do it yourself, you go out on a rooftop, pick any star, and then you call that a variant star. And then you wait 6 months later and do a measurement by its shifting. So, and then you apply a mathematical equation called trigonometry. So they call this parallax. Sorry guys, but this is the way it works. And you ask the questions. So I have to answer it the way it is. So
Mr. AbdulWahab, I hardly passed in math. It's good.
Hatim, I also have a burning question now. I have a burning question.
Please go ahead, shoot. I didn't go to the third and fourth way of calculating distance. But look, I can tell you easily at least the age. The blue are young, the yellow a little bit old, the red ones are really old, like Betelgeuse and Antara, the Qalb al-Aqrab. So this, if it is reddish, it is old. If it is bluish, it is young. If it is yellowish, like our own star, it's middle age. So at least something easy there.
I'm really lost.
We didn't know that they have colors. We all see them at white
they do.
colors.
No,
all the stars are white.
Next time I take you, we'll observe.
خلاص إن شاء الله we'll look for the blue stars.
Yeah, blue stars.
Okay,
Young.
Ali has a burning question.
Yeah, sure.
يلا Ali.
Yeah, go
My
ahead.
burn.
my burning question is now I don't know if this is right, but they say that whatever star that you're looking at right now, it's actually not there. It has disappeared
true.
years back.
Yeah. Well, it depends, but that could be possible. For example, let's pick up a star. Why not the Hatim's favorite star, the northern star, or Polaris, as we call it? So Polaris, if you calculate, you'll be told it's 20 million light years away. What does that mean? It simply means that it takes the time that the light that reaches us here on Earth takes 20 million light years. Each light year, maybe we need to little bit to focus here, is
300,000.
the time
300,000
300,000 kilometers per second. So now you multiply that by 60 seconds, that's 1 minute. And then by 1 hour, then by 24, then by 365 days. So that I have the answer. It's 13 trillion kilometers. So one light year is 13 trillion kilometers. So now multiply that by 20 million. I don't think you have a calculator that can calculate that. 20 million.
That calculator doesn't work.
It will burn. So it takes a lot of time. For the easiest example is if you look at the sun as it sets, it takes 8 minutes for the light to reach you. So if the sun disappears, you will not know about it up to 8 minutes later. So going back to your question, Ali, that those stars that you see, some of them are gone completely.
Before we were born, before the human kind even existed.
Yes,
Man,
yes.
Subhanallah.
Yes.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
But the question again, it's more burning, Hatim. Wait, the more burning question. How did people know about that?
Yeah, I mean, these are again the what I tried to explain in the beginning. That the easiest way is Then I'll start mentioning. It's the same answer I gave earlier. So, but the easiest way without using sophisticated telescopes is for you to sit out at night and look at least at the planets and how they move about. And you can come up with simple mathematical sort of calculation to know that they are really, really far. Let's take an example, for example, of our moon. How far is it? It's 380,000 kilometers away. How did we know? We know just by making a circle and putting something in the middle and calculating things like, radius. Simply by looking, where you are and how far it is. It's not very difficult. It's just using mathematical formula. So next you move to the planets. You look at Venus. How far is it? So you get the answer for Venus. And then you move on to the stars. So this is the way to calculate. But sometimes you have to wait for a long time.
I love it when you say it's not very difficult. It's not very difficult. Just wait for 6 months for the moon to move, and then you can calculate. It's very and a few thousand formulas, you do it mathematically, and you get the distance. Yeah, very easy.
Very easy.
Allah يسامحك. Okay, I have another burning question. Burning question. What's the difference between the falling stars and the comets?
Yes.
الشهب والنيازك والمذنبات.
Very good question. Very good.
Everything that is falling down.
But when you mention Sheikh Hatim about falling down, wallahi, there is a miracle that Allah Ta'ala has made this earth, protected it with an iron solid shield, and it is invisible. It's just a gas. It's just a gas. But there is nothing that penetrates it. It breaks and falls into pieces. So Allah Ta'ala has made our planet, protected it, that those rocks that fly by, as they come close to the atmosphere, they hit it as if they have hit an iron, and they break into small pieces. And those small pieces, they are still hot and they're burning. and we call them meteorites. So they break, and so when you go at night and you hear the famous Gemini meteorites, you hear the Pleiades meteorites, which will probably come in May, or they call them meteor showers, shuhub. So these are small pieces of rocks that broke, and then they rain, and mostly they go into the ocean or into the desert. So you'll never hear somebody, I was hit by a meteorite. That's even, you might hear about what is it?
Lightning.
Ra'ad, lightning, but you'll never hear about meteorite, because
Thunder.
Allah Ta'ala protects the thunder.
barq.
Exactly. So it is so unlikely. But have rocks fallen onto earth? Yes. How often? They fall every day, but mostly in an isolated. But the famous one, for example, that fell was in 2013 in Russia. It exploded and everybody took photos. Windows were broken, and they went into the forest and they found a huge rock. Probably we'll talk about our own rock that went to Mars later. I don't know.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Would you like to
So
talk
you want me
about
to
it
mention
now?
that now? Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
please.
So
Yes,
basically,
yes.
in 1999, there was a geologist working in somewhere in Haima, and he came across a meteor or rock that originated from Mars. So he took it and he analyzed it, and by the way, these are very, very expensive, more expensive than gold. So it ended up being in the Natural History Museum of London from 99 until 2021. NASA came to England and said, guys, we heard we have a nice little rock. It weighed 8.58 kilograms. Can we have a piece of it? Want to return it to Mars? So they said, fine. But they said, look, we got it from Oman, so make sure you mention Oman. And Oman was in the news, so they called it Al-Humair 008. So it was taken by a rover called Perseverance. It went all the way to Mars, and they put it back. And the reason, of course, there's more than one. But basically, they want to see the reaction, how it acts when it's returned to its, like what Sheikh Hatim told us earlier. He goes by sick birds, treats them, and then he sends them to the wild. So this is what we did. Send it back to where it belongs.
Oh, so the only reason why they sent it back to see if there's a reaction.
Yeah,
because I was wondering, why would they do that?
Yeah, and also, it's to carry out experiments, Sheikh Ali. That is only one reason, but there are probably another 6 to 7 reasons. Maybe we cannot go into detail, but basically to see. And also, they carry out some act of laser pointing. So in the past, they used to take any rock and do tests. So now they said, we will bring a rock from Earth that fell about, I think it was like 400,000 years ago, and we return it back to Mars. So we were in the news for some good reasons. Like,
and
always,
I think you were also in another news in French television.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. When you work on this field, astronomy, from time to time there is a major event that comes, like the annular eclipse or the moon eclipse. So people will start getting glasses, they start going out and look at this amazing wonders. So this French channel came and they did a tour of Jabal Shams, and they wanted to know how astronomy is doing in Oman, and they wanted to know historically how the Omanis were using even the stars, to work on the Falaj system and so on. So that is me looking at the telescope in Jabal Shams, and that is Venus, the one you're talking about, Fajr. This is, of course, the moon. So yeah, it's a very interesting for young people to pursue. Beautiful hobby, really.
Can we have access to those telescopes, or is
absolutely
it only for members? No.
The good thing about the Astronomical Society of Oman is that anyone can join, and once you join, you are entitled to visit any of our telescopes. This is Saturn. This is what led me to. This is what you see. Yeah, this is Saturn. So if you have a telescope, even a small one, you will be able to see that ring, and it's beautiful.
Let's pause it.
Yeah. So if you have a telescope only 4.5 inch, 200 Riyal Omani, this is what you see. But with your naked eye, you only see a dot.
Yeah.
So that's one good reason why to go and buy a telescope.
We always thought that these type of like stars, they only in cartoons or movies. They're not in
Cartoons.
reality.
Yes,
Yeah, but
yes.
Sheikh Hatem, sometimes I will take a
yes,
telescope and put it on Al Hali beach. So people will make a line, of
yes,
course, before our current. So they'll make a line and I show them the moon. They said, are you sure that's the moon? Because when we see light, but now we see some holes, we see rocks, we see mountains. What's going on? I said, this is called astronomy. Please join the group and you'll see more.
Mm.
mashallah, mashallah.
Man, I'm in.
And now,
I'm in.
Come on, let's do it.
خلاص.
Brother Abdul Wahab, we heard this term so many times, the black hole.
Yes,
And even we heard that the black hole swallows everything. What
yes.
exactly is a black hole?
Okay, a black hole is a phenomenon, or it is an area, and of course we have a massive black hole right here in our own Milky Way galaxy at a point that we call Sagittarius A. So right there, there is a massive black hole that is holding our galaxy together. So what is a black hole? That is your question. A black hole is a reminiscent or a result of an explosion of a star, a massive star that exploded, and in the middle of it, it created an amazing amount of energy, and anything that goes into that black hole never comes out, whether it is
Oh.
a star or a planet, or me and you, we go there by accident, we'll never be seen again.
But did people actually reach to that place?
No, it's too far away
Isn't he?
for us to reach, but we can use our telescope and see it sucking stars, sucking planets, and saying, come here, I'm hungry. And the more it is, the bigger it becomes. That's the funny part.
And how often can you see it? Is it all the time?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can pick any of the black holes that are visible, you can see them. But at the center, it is quite bright. You will need a super massive telescope like the one in Hubble, or you have to go to Chile. There is a big telescope that they call very light telescopes, or VLTs. Those ones, they can zoom in and show you that this is the troublemaker, black hole. And by the way, there is no fully agreed phenomena. We know it is dark. We know it swallows stuff. What happens if you go there? It is only a theory. They say to you, you will move to a parallel universe. You will go to something similar and you will find another Hatim, another Ali sitting there. But these are, of course, theories. What we know is if you go there, you get lost.
Hatim. Okay, I think you're back. No, I just saw a change. Yeah, there's. Can we take one comment? Okay, I think you have a burning question. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a burning question. We normally read that all the minerals that are there on Earth are originally not from Earth. They are from space and they fell into Earth. Is this true? Like iron and the other minerals?
MashaAllah. I will start with iron, or Fe as it's known chemically. Sheikh Hafiz or Sheikh Hatem and Brother Ali, to make iron, you need 20 million degrees Celsius oven. You need an oven that you can put the temperature to 20 million degrees. What is the core temperature of our Earth? 6,000. 6,000. Not even 20,000. Not even a million. So where is iron made? During an explosion of a star. So when a star explodes, it makes heavy elements like iron, potassium, oxygen, magnesium. All these heavy elements are made up in the star and not Earth. Our Earth is little soft, and in the middle it's hot, but the temperature is not big enough. So the iron, Allah Ta'ala, and it brought it from the sky. It fell just like the guy who found that meteorite. They fell from the stars. So even in our own body, we have a little bit of iron. So because it helps with the movement of the oxygen in our blood carried by the hemoglobin. So what I'm saying here is that your question and is very, very true when it comes to answering your question. Indeed, iron, potassium, oxygen, carbon, magnesium, all these heavy elements. You remember in school we looked at the periodic table. It starts from helium all the way to uranium, the 32 table. So the heavy ones are made up in the stars and not on Earth.
SubhanAllah, the same question was actually asked by Hassan Rasbiya. The meteorites made of elements not available in the Earth. So Hatim,
Yes.
yeah, two guys were thinking alike.
ما
By
غشيت
chance.
ما
والله ما
غشيت
غشيت ما
ما
غشيت
غشيت ما غشيت. And we have Abdul Basit, Sheikh Abdul Basit Al-Ismaili. Oh, assalamu alaikum. A great subject and proud to be having professional people like Sheikh Abdul Wahab that would put things very clear. Indeed, indeed, indeed. And then we have Ayman Sharafi again, the friend of our sun. It says, why the sun is also called the star class 8? What are the 7 types of stars?
Okay. I mean, I mentioned earlier on about the life, but I can quickly take you through the formation of a star. So if you want to know the cycle, so it starts from a nebula, it goes to an average star, to a red giant, planetarium nebula, and then it turns to a white dwarf if it is a small star. If it's big, it moves to be a massive star, red supergiant, supernova, and black hole. So this is the life cycle of a star. But I will stick with the one that Hatim likes. Red, very old. Blue, very young. Yellow, 50-50. I love it. I love it.
Okay, I think we're running out of time. Hatim, there's one very burning question I want to ask, but
Yes,
I'll let you
please.
ask.
Yeah.
I'll let Hatim ask first.
I am not done. I have a long list of burning questions, Ali.
You're the one who
what shall
wants
I
to
do with
end
the burning
at 9.
Okay, go ahead and ask the question, Ali.
My question is now mainly about moon sighting, and now that we're
Yes,
about
yes,
to have moon
yes,
sighting of
yes,
Ramadan.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and how people actually see the moon and why our country and the other country they're different in moons sighting?
Yeah, very good question, Sheikh Ali. Of course, when it comes to Oman, and we follow that we have to fast and break fast sumu liru'yati wa aftaru liru'yati. So there has to be a physical viewing. You can even use a telescope. So this is how we do it in Oman. And for example, in around 10 days from now, we will assign people to go to Jabal Shams and to go to different locations with telescope and start looking for the moon. Now, how do you find the moon? There are a number of things that for you to see the moon. Number one is illumination. It has to be at least 0.5 and above of a percentage to be able to see it. If it is 2%, you'll be able to pick it up, even if you can't see well. But the other thing that also a criteria is required is that the angle, the horizon inclination, it has to be at least 8 degrees and above. So if it is low on the horizon, you'll not be able to see it. The third thing also, which is very, very important, is how old is it? When was it born? 6 in the morning, 8 in the morning? Is it 12 hours? Is it 15 hours? And most important for me is, we call it in Arabic, muks. How long will it be in the horizon? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? 20 minutes? Now, to answer quickly, how will you be able to see it? You have to have 15 minutes and above of muks. I don't know, maybe one of you can help me with the translation of muks, the period. It stays in the horizon.
Remaining in the horizon. Remaining in the horizon.
Yeah, so remaining in the horizon, at least I would say 15 minutes. And then you will need an illumination of 0.5 and above. And then you need an angle of 8 or above. And of course, it has to be at least 15 hours long. But our neighbors and other countries are okay to know that, look, was it born? Is it in the horizon? If you don't see it, fine. I think there is a country like they will use, I think Turkey, I believe, will decide simply based on an astronomical calculation. All they want to know is, has the sun gone and the moon followed? That's good enough for them. But for us, sumu liru'yati, and then aftaru liru'yati. And we have very capable astronomers, representatives from Awqaf, representatives from different places. They go out there, and we spend at least an hour or two looking for it. And when we see it, and alhamdulillah, I've been privileged to be in one of these committees. So we just give a call, oh, we saw it. We inform them, and then they make the decision.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. One last question before we leave today's show. Why do we have gravity on Earth and we don't have gravity in other planets?
Okay. I mean, the scientific answer will be there is gravity even on the moon, even on Saturn, even on Venus or Mars, but it is less. For example, the gravity of the moon is 1/6 out of the Earth. So if you're on moon and you jump up, you will go up maybe a few meters, but it will still pull you down. So there is gravity, but it varies. So yeah, so so gravity, by the way, you can write 12 volumes on gravity itself. 12 volumes, not one page or 2 pages, 12 volumes. And people do PhD and thesis and studies on gravity, and still they get confused. It's the most. There are 4 natural forces. There is the electromagnetic force, there is the weak nuclear force, there is the strong nuclear, and there is gravity. Gravity is the most mind-boggling one, and it is here on Earth, and it's But what is gravity? To make it the easiest way is that any mass, anything, even you, Hatim, or brother Ali, you will act as a gravity to anything, because you have mass, you have volume, you have weight, you have that. So you can have, so the Earth hence has a gravity and is pulling the moon. So the sun has gravity, is pulling all the 8 planets. So anything that has mass has gravity. Of course, the strength that varies.
So men do have gravity towards their spouses?
Of course, natural. They do. And we cannot deny that.
But
we cannot deny that. Yeah. It's called the gravitational force attraction.
Ustad Wahab, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you so much for enlightening us about the topic of astronomy, and you really cleared a lot of doubts. We had so many burning questions, but mashallah, they're clear and out of the way now.
Yes.
We thank you for the difficult calculations you gave us today in the formulas, but I'm sure Ali's going to do them as his homework today, inshallah. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work and keep educating the young people about our universe and the importance of our universe, and hope to see you soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sheikh ABDULWAHAB. And inshallah, I think this is for me, I think I'm going to join, inshallah. Hatim, how many things am I going to be member of? But this is, I think, the love of my life,
Ali, you promised a lot of people to join them, and you never joined any one of them. So that's why I don't. When you say I'm gonna join, I say I just keep quiet.
Amen. Thank you very much,
شكرا جزيلا. أحسنتم. شكرا. أحسن.
All right, brother Hatim, I think you have to make a move.
Yes, I have to make a move. Take care of yourself, and see you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. And for our viewers, please like and share this episode. And if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe and hit that indication button so that you can get all the notifications from Ummati Station. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.